I'll call the meeting to order. Okay, so I'll call to order the September 15th, 2020 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board. We're meeting by Zoom. Hello, everyone. So we've got a quorum. We've called to order. So next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda. And does anybody have any adjustments that they would like to make to the agenda? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
I will, Mr. Chair. This will be our order for the night too. I just clocked people in as they got onto the call, so don't take offense if you're at the bottom or the top.
Hey, and Alan, before you do that, can I just say, so Scott Costello, we're voting on the agenda. There weren't any additions to it. A motion's been made in a second. There wasn't any discussion. So Alan's about to call the vote on approval of the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mark. Okay. Diane.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
I apologize, aye.
Okay. Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
And Mr. Costello.
Aye.
You have a board, you have a agenda, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So moving on to the next item on our agenda, the approval of the August meeting minutes. Excuse me, were there any adjustments to these minutes? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the August meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan, will you call the vote, please?
I will, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
Mark Gans.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
And Mr. Costello.
Aye.
You have minutes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So next item on the agenda is the public comment time where we reserve 15 minutes for items not on tonight's agenda. I don't see anybody that looks like they want to take advantage of that. Alan, do you know of anybody that's waiting to do that?
Mr. Chair, I see no one in a waiting room and there are no pending calls. I'll let you know if someone knocks to get in at some point.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. New business. This is listed as one item, U.S. Mail and White Bear Lake Conservation District violations. And so what this stems from is a letter that the board received that someone had put into some mailboxes, basically asking, looking for opportunities to rent dock space on someone's private dock. So it's not a good thing, obviously. Mark, you got anything to add to this?
No, just that if you don't have a commercial marina license, you can't operate on public waters for, commercial reasons. So, I mean, that's
Sure.
kind of the long and the short of it.
Sure. So if somebody took advantage of this, then they would be doing something that violates our rules. And okay, Alan, any input on this item? I'm not sure what to do with it. That's why I'm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it ended up with the board. Of course, I think Mark correctly summarized the commercial nature of renting out personal private slips to other folks. It also, I think, runs afoul of the general residential nature on the land. So all those R1 designations around the lake in the various cities would prevent someone from having a commercial operation. I'm sure it happens, but it's not necessarily legal. As far as how it got into the box of whoever it got into before it got to us, that is a violation of federal law as it relates to using the Postal Service receptacle. I think it was a mailbox, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, yeah.
And so when you put things in there and they don't have proper postage, you're technically defrauding the government of their, forever stamp value, as well as using what's essentially federal space. When you put out a postal receptacle, it's considered federal airspace, for lack of a better term. If it's a slot in your house, that's a little different, because technically then the mail person is actually putting it into your residence. So if that note had come in through a door slot, very different. But if it's pinned to, attached to, shoved into, or otherwise stuck on your mailbox, that's a violation, and the Office of the Inspector General handles those complaints. So hopefully someone will see the recording that we're making tonight and get their answer. I'm not sure who made the complaint, but the local post office is where you'd hand that over. And since the person who posted it was nice enough to leave their contact information, they arguably could actually get a call from the Postmaster General from the state saying, please don't do that again. We'd hate to have to, charge you with violation of federal law.
Okay, so does anybody think there's any action the board ought to take on this?
Mr. Chairman, did anyone contact this person?
I did not. Did Kim, Mark, do you know, did anybody contact the person that sent this to us?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, not that we didn't make any decision on it, so I did not call them, no.
Okay, and Scott O'Connor just, and I think this is right. I think it was maybe, were there multiple, or do we know there were multiple letters?
Well, the person who brought this to our attention was Marty Rathmanner, because
Okay.
he got this in his mailbox, and I got a copy in my mailbox as well.
Okay, that's why, that's jogging my memory. And so, yeah, so it seems like it's reasonable to assume that others received the mailing as well, or the letter.
It certainly looked like a blanket posting, if you will.
Is it worthwhile asking our attorney to graciously make contact and just say, for your education, this is what the issues are?
And would that be to the letter writer?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's worth discussion. To have Alan write a letter to the letter writer, just to let them know of the, I don't know about the U.S. mail violations, Alan, but I mean, you certainly could, but it would be more along the lines of the violations of the Conservation District's rules.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, do we need a motion to do?
Something else could be added to that. I feel that Scott O'Connor is correct. He should be notified that what he's trying to do is against what our rules are and what the DNR rules would be. And in his letter, he said he was looking for commercial property on the lake. And there's one now, one already sold, and I don't know if he bought it or not. But there were two commercial properties right in the commercial bay that were for sale. One was law office and one was just an office space. And in his letter, he said he would be looking for a commercial space for a commercial building on the lake where he could put up a couple of docks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking into that, saying a couple of docks. He's wanting to rent space somewhere from somebody. He may be looking at renting space when he finds a commercial property and puts in a couple of docks. So I think he should kind of know what our rules are now before it starts down the road of having being a problem.
Sounds good. So,
All of thinking or not, but I think he
so I
should be
think
aware
that's
of
all
it.
good input. So, Alan, can you just take care of that letter? And does anybody else have any input for Alan?
The guy include his postal address, or just include a phone number? I don't have it up here.
There was a full name and everything, a full name and phone number for sure. There might have been an address.
Yeah,
I can
because if
pull it
there's
up.
no address, you can't really write a letter, right? So,
Yeah, he cannot be that hard to find. It's a 651 number, and he gives his full name and at least calls himself a financial planner. So I'm sure he's not hard to find.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah, financial planners don't hide themselves.
They usually employ English a little better than the note implies as well. But I will write a letter to to Derek and inform him of what the discussion has been tonight, and politely remind him that it's also a violation of US Postal Code.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other discussion on this or moving on? Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. First item, St. Germain Bay sign. And Mark, can you give us an update on this?
Yeah, that's me. It's going slow. It's probably more my fault than anybody. I just got a letter back or an email back week and a half ago. And the city can't determine where it is. So I'm in contact with the the DMV now, or MnDOT, to see where the right of ways are there and what can and can't happen. So that's where the process is right now.
All right. Well, thanks for following up with that.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item, commercial bay study. So just prior to the August meeting, Kim sent out kind of an outline of some ideas for a study. And I asked everyone to review those and provide input. And did folks get a chance to provide input to Kim? I think that's what I asked.
I did not receive any.
Okay.
I don't recall receiving any either.
Any input? Okay. Okay. So is there any input on the outline that was sent out before the August meeting?
Well, Brian, as you know, we talked this afternoon on the phone a little bit about additional things that could be included in the list that you put out. Your list was pretty complete, but in addition to that, there's biological resources, determining on the natural species of plant life, waterfowl, turtles. It's funny, it may sound muskrats, but you know they have to go somewhere to fish habitat. All that how it affects that. In testing for chemicals, we would include synthetic chemicals maybe into that because those generally aren't tested for and are hard to test for, very hard to clean up. There's organic debris, and then sediment. Along with sediment comes crop thrust, and we talked about turbidity a couple months back, and basically that's resedimentation of the bottom when somebody goes through with the boat and digs it all up, and then it's all cloudy and muddy, and how it settled out and what that does as far as creating algae. And then there's the legal aspects of enforcing our ordinances, things like that for a commercial-based study. How can we enforce our ordinances better?
Hey, Mike.
And
Mike, are you using your phone or a router? Are you using your home Wi-Fi or are you using a phone connection?
No, I'm using a computer.
Is there any way you can move it closer to your home router? The audio is really garbled and it's going to show up that way on the recording.
Yeah, so sometimes we can hear you pretty good, Mike, and other times, like Alan said, it just kind of has a little glitch to it.
Okay.
And
It's Wi-Fi, computer Wi-Fi.
You might preserve some bandwidth too by just disabling your video, which you can do down in the corner of your Zoom interface.
Okay, stop video.
Sometimes, I mean, we don't get to see you, but sometimes it helps with the audio because it's only one stream going out.
Okay, goodbye. Did it help at all?
You're looking good.
All right.
2048.
So you want me to start over?
So Mike and I talked this afternoon, and Mike talked about a lot of those items. And Mike, it probably would be a good idea for you to just run through those items again, and so that others can hear what items you had.
Well, maybe should I just send them to you, Brian?
And that'd be fine too, if you'd like to do that. But just to summarize, Mike raised a bunch of issues like, wildlife in the commercial Bay Area, how that's impacted, other chemicals, enforcement of the ordinances that go along with commercial Bay, and that stretches the study out, beyond, say, an environmental and I don't know, maybe it doesn't, safety. But I think it's good to get all of that stuff on paper. And, one thing I think about this study is that if the board decides to push ahead with this study, the intent would be to give the board some criteria to use in determining the appropriate number of slips in Commercial Bay. And what that study could mean is, or could tell us is, hey, you have way too many slips in Commercial Bay and you need to reduce those numbers. And that will be, and that will not be taken lightly by, obviously, the people in Commercial Bay. So it's an important study to give us important information. And that's my opinion, I should say. And so we've been struggling for a little bit to try to get this scope of work put together. And maybe what we can do, and Susie, I don't know, did you say that you don't recall receiving it?
I don't recall it, no.
Okay, so at least Susie didn't maybe receive it when it was sent out just before the August meeting. And so could we do this? Kim, could you send that out to everyone again tomorrow and request comments? And can we get input? What does everybody does? Is 2 weeks? Is that reasonable to everybody? If anybody thinks that's not reasonable, then chime in, hey? Okay, that sounds good. So that's where we'll leave that. Is Kim will resend it and to make sure everybody has the starting point. Mike will send his input as well. And maybe, Mike, if you have that together, could you shoot that to Kim? And Kim could maybe just update the document, and maybe Kim could own the document.
Yeah, that'd be great. I can take everybody's requests of whatever and combine it to one spreadsheet.
Are we going to prioritize these things? I'm kind of thinking that if you go beyond just, environmental kind of things, this could be quite pricey.
Yeah, and
we'll likely need to pare back. So maybe we need to prioritize them, list them in the order that we think we need them.
Yeah, and personally, I think it's a great idea, Scott. I think the first step is just to get them all onto a sheet of paper so that we can everything that everybody thinks, because I may think, oh, we ought to study what happens when a car drives into Commercial Bay, and everybody else might look at that and say, pretty low priority, but at least we've gotten it into the mix for discussion. So I think the next step is Kim will send this out again. Everybody can chime in within 2 weeks. Kim will update it, and we'll have something that we can review at our next meeting.
Great.
Okay.
It's going to take me a couple of days, Kim.
Okay.
Tomorrow's shot, and the next day I'm going to. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone, on that item. Next item. Further discussion of possible summer or fall cleanup in addition to the spring cleanup. Scott, is that a you item?
Yeah, I think it was Cam suggested that
Oh, right.
at our last meeting.
Yes, it was.
And, if we can get the organization, I think you'd almost need to have, sponsors, to do that, sort of like road cleanup.
Right.
And I don't know how we'd organize. I guess I'm not volunteering to organize it, but, and I don't know if Cam, who can't be here tonight, if he has any ideas on organizing it.
Maybe we should table it till when Cam can discuss his thoughts.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea. One thing I'll just add that's unique about the spring cleanup is that started as a Eagle Scout project, and that has taken a life of its own. So it's in a different boat than starting a new program. So we'll table that and have that on a future agenda. Okay, we're moving on to reports, action items, executive committee. That's me. The executive committee did not meet, so there's no report. So on to the Lake Quality Committee, Mike.
Lake quality, the lake level today is 924.49. 924.49. Last month it was in April when the lace went out, it was 925.08. So it was 3/4 of a foot higher. And I think you can see, everybody would notice that the lake has gone down somewhat, and that's typical in the fall, not unusual. A year ago, it was about the same as it was in April, 925.08. So it hasn't changed much at all. So the only thing we've seen, it went down about 8 inches this year at this time. And again, like I say, that's not unusual in the fall. The lake temperature is 66 degrees. Last month it was 74 degrees, so it's going down. Well, it was beautiful today.
Not cold.
Yeah, wait. And then the last item is the Phragmites treatment. That will be done at the end of this month or early October. Everything's in place. I'll be having to get a permit, renew the permit from the DNR so it can be done, and then check back with Ramsey County, who is helping fund it through Anoka County. I think I explained that last time. Anoka County had extra money and offered it to people in Ramsey County. Make sure the funding's all in place, and then that'll go forward. Last month, the yellowtail iris treatment was successful. The plant seems to be totally eradicated. It's kind of brown and looking pretty bad and not going to come back. So, and on our treasurer's report, there's a bill, $423, I think, is to pay for that particular treatment. So that pretty much wrapped up everything, unless there's any questions.
But when we get ready to do that Phragmites treatment, can we get something on the website?
I'll ask the applicator to give me a heads up when they go out to do it.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Mike, are all of these, the Phragmites and the iris, are they actually standing in the water at this point?
Yeah.
Or are they all, yeah. So they're all, beneath the ordinary high water mark. So they would all have to be, you need a permit for that.
Yeah.
So,
And they're all, except for, well, they're all pretty much in people's AUDAs too also. So
yeah.
Not that far out from shore.
Yeah. So because I updated the website with information, and I said, well, basically, if it's below the ordinary high water mark, which is by reference, it's been right around that level, for the last year or so. So if it's in the water, basically you need to have a DNR permit.
Yeah.
So, and you can certainly treat them yourself if it's up on land, but is any of this stuff up on land that somebody would want to do it? So,
well, the iris could grow on land and not be a problem.
yeah.
Phragmites will not be growing. Well, it could grow on land if the lake goes down a little bit too. But like the piece that you're working on for information, hopefully for next spring, and that we get the people recognize these things and then they can just treat it themselves.
Yeah. Assuming it's on yeah, either, it's on land, they can do it without a permit. Otherwise you have to get a permit. So
if it's in the water, even if it's in the water, if it's such a small little thing and they just dig it up rather than, use herbicides or something, I don't think you need a permit for that.
Yeah, well, okay. I don't want to say.
Let the DNR figure that one out.
Yeah, okay. I for purposes of what we're documenting on our website, I'm not going to say don't bother with the permit.
Yeah.
So, but basically, both of those things are controlled by the chemical that's in Roundup. If it's out in the water, you really should use an aquatic formulation of that.
Yeah.
And I list some of those. You can see what I put on the website.
Yeah. Okay.
but it's really pretty much what you'd spray on anything else. And you just have to be a little bit careful about, the permits. So,
Okay, any other questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda, excuse me, the Lake Utilization Committee. It says meeting canceled, but Mark, do you want to take some time here?
The photos did come in, and finally you learned how to use Dropbox, but they've been emailed. I don't know if Kim was going to send them out to everybody. I've got a vote count. If anybody else wants to do a vote count, let me know, because I'm not confident. I've done it a few times and get different numbers on it, but even with my glasses on. So, but they're out there, and that's it. They look really good. I think it's behind Scott right now. It looks like one of them.
Yeah. And so do we think people are complying with their permits that we provide to them, Mark?
It depends. There's some slips missing or open, so I don't know how we want to go about doing that. And maybe we can talk later about that. We can talk now about that.
Sure.
I get that. I've looked at it several different ways. That should you only be allowed to have as many slips as you're allowed to have, and I think that's probably the way to go. And I think that's mostly what they're doing. But I'll look at it again.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you'd have to count the slips, whether they got a boat in them or not. Maybe you have 2 tallies, but I mean, we need to do something with it. Otherwise, we've paid for some real pretty pictures.
Yeah, I think we need to tighten up the ordinance, to be honest with you, and make something that says that you're only allowed to have as many slips as your permit from the DNR allows, and our permit, and as well as I've noticed a lot of them have boats on the very end, and they're obviously rentals because they're there and they're tied up at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, you could count them and then just talk to the operators and
Yeah.
see what they claim.
And then one of the members of the LUC also said we should probably have something that says that the slips actually have to be numbered, so we can go out there and count, and that might help better as well.
Sure. So some opportunities to tighten up our ordinance to give us a little more, I don't know. Just
Clarity.
clear.
Absolutely.
Yep, right on. Okay. Any questions for Mark? Okay. On to the next item, the Lake Education Committee. Scott?
Yeah, we've got, we have a new lake cleanup sign on order. We should arrive next week, and we can get rid of our old ones that have seen their day. And let's see, and it was designed in a generic enough way that we could use it for a summer cleanup. Only other thing I've already mentioned, is that we have updated the website to include information on the yellow iris and the Phragmites. So you can go out and check that. We can always change it if somebody sees something that's not quite right. But I updated both the invasive species homepage and the specific pages. I cleaned up a few things there because it's very easy for this kind of stuff to get out of date. There's a reference. Well, last summer we did this. Well, that was like 2017, right? So you need to be more specific. So anyway, that was cleaned up. Right now, we don't have any plans to further publicize that besides putting it on our website. back in 2015, when we came out with our information on zebra mussels, we actually mailed it um, to all of the lakeshore owners, which involved going to both counties and getting mailing labels so we could put it on our brochures. At that time, well, there was a lot more information about dealing with zebra mussels. Like, what do you do when they stick to your dock? You have to be careful when you pull stuff out that has to dry. You know, there's quite a bit of detail. There's not really a whole lot of detail on the shoreline invasives. Basically, this is what it looks like, and you can kill it with herbicides, notwithstanding the DNR controls. So, we could do that. It is a bit of work and some expense to get mailing labels to send anything out. We could also put an ad in the paper pointing to the information that's on our website. Then again, it's really not that complicated.
Right. Well, we've been trying to figure out some way to better communicate with the homeowners around the lake. Kim was doing some looking into that at one time, I know. It would be good to come up with a way to more efficiently communicate items like this with the lake homeowners through email.
Yeah, we'd have to have the email list, or, we could at least, I know we've got Twitter and we got Facebook, right? You just put
sure.
a link to the root page for invasives, which lists all the invasives and then links to their, special information.
Well, that's good. Okay. So do we need to make any decisions on that, Scott, or it sounds good to link that.
I guess I'm just telling you that I've done as much as I think's necessary. If Kim has, operates the Twitter and the Facebook pages, she could, put out a link to our website.
Yep, sounds good. So
That's
Kim,
as far as I would go.
okay, and Kim, can you do that then?
Yeah, I can definitely do that, because with the email, when I went around trying to do that, it was almost impossible to find anybody that had even a substantial amount of emails of the lake owners and things like that. So
Yeah, I could put it on Nextdoor too. Be another way of doing it.
I think if we put it out on Facebook and on our own website, and there's a couple other ones we can put them out. There's a Downtown White Bear website, things like that we could put little links on, I think, and we'd be fine.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for taking care of that, Kim. Any questions for Scott? Okay, so moving on to the treasurer's report. Diane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Treasurer's report for September 2020. You can see under income, the city of Birchwood paid their assessment. Under expenses, the city of White Bear Lake was reimbursed for swimmer's itch treatment. That was another treatment that was done earlier in the summer. Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve checks 4657 through 4663.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the checks. Any discussion? Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Brian,
Aye.
Mark, Diane,
Aye.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Scott O'Connor,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Scott Costello.
Aye.
You have approved checks and treasurer report.
Thank you.
Any questions for Diane?
I have a question for Diane. I noticed on the balance sheets that under account 3036A, irrigation water milfoil buoys, that there was an expenditure of $250. I believe that was probably for putting in the shallow water buoys. It should be represented under account number 6060, lake management miscellaneous.
Can you give me those two numbers again, Mike?
Okay.
I just got to that sheet.
Account 6036A, Eurasian water milfoil buoy. It looks like there's $250 expenditure there. That should have been recorded under account 6060, lake
Okay.
management miscellaneous.
Okay. We will get that, take a look at it and switch it up. Thank you.
Anything else for Diane? All right. Thank you, Diane. Next item, Board Council report. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I usually reach out to at least the sheriff, if not the Conservation District DNR representative, which I did this last week. Relatively slow in terms of enforcement on the lake. So those of you who live on the lake can, I guess, talk amongst yourselves about what you saw, but it didn't precipitate a lot of violations. DNR and the Ramsey County Sheriff's deputies were out for the, if you guys heard about the meat boat in Mataska problem. Small accident over there. The person who got hurt in the accident essentially will be okay. The other driver of the boat wasn't cited. In fact, I don't think anyone's been cited yet for any sort of negligence. I don't think alcohol was involved, just boat getting out of control. I'll apologize in advance for, well, I guess for right now. Last month's meeting, I believe I was trying to either transfer the hosting over to Mark for some reason or something or another. Anyway, when that came back over, for whatever reason, the recording stopped. So for last month's meeting, obviously you have the minutes to reflect what you did, which is all that's required under state law. The recording, however, didn't get made, so it didn't get posted. So you will have at least one Zoom meeting this year that didn't make it onto the website. This one is recording adequately, so all good that way. And beyond that, I can report one George St. Germain sighting by me driving through Matamidi. So he's up at St. Andrews, and so saw him out probably harassing a resident, but we'll give him credit and say that he was having a nice conversation. So hi from George on the other side of the lake. And I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda, announcements. Kim?
The only thing I have is that I have sent out renewal reminder letters and forms to anyone that received a permit last year, both residential and commercial bay. So that hopefully before October 15th, they'll start pouring in. I also put it on the website. And then, and also as a backup to that, I also emailed all of them to remind them that these were due by the 15th to avoid late fees. So hopefully these will be taken care of in a timely manner.
Thank you, Kim.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Any questions for Kim? All right, thank you again, Kim. So we're on to the last item on the agenda, adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
And finally, Scott Costello.
Aye.
All right, you have an adjourned meeting. I'll wait till everyone drops off to end the meeting. We're going to end the recording now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you all.